Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Part 2, Chapter 17. My, my designation is MB 1021, Robotic Ship Integration, the ship said. It didn't just talk, it seemed to have trouble stopping, but humans prefer names to designations, so I am commonly referred to as MBot. I am a long-distance reconnaissance and recovery ship designed for stealth operations and unsupported solo missions in deep space locations. And the machine trailed off. And I asked, lounging in the cockpit, trying to figure out what in the stars this thing was. My data banks are corrupted, Mbot said. I cannot recover further information. I can retrieve my mission parameters. The only record I have is from my most recent order from my master. Lie low, Mbot. Take stock and don't get into any fights and wait for me here. Your master was your pilot, right? I asked. Correct, Commander Spears. He summoned a fuzzy image for me, which briefly replaced the scanner display on his dash. This Commander Spears was a clean-cut, youngish man with tan skin and a crisp, unfamiliar uniform. I've never heard of him, and I know all of the famous pilots, even from Grand's day in the fleet. What was up with the Crow when you came here? Had they attacked the galaxy yet? I have no recollection of this group. The word Krell doesn't appear in my memory banks. He paused. Reading the decay rate of isotopes in my memory core indicates that it has been 172 years since I was deactivated. Huh, I said. The Defiant and its fleet crashed on detritus about 80 years ago, and the Krell War started some distant time before that. Gran said the war had been going on for a long time when she'd been born. Considering human lifespans, Mbot said, I must conclude my pilot has perished. How sad. Sad? I asked. You have emotions? I'm allowed to self-improving and independently reinforcing memory pathways for the stimulation of organic emotions that allows me to better interact with humans, but I am not actually alive. My subroutines for emotional distress indicate I should feel the loss for my master, but the memory banks recording his appearance and our history together are damaged. I remember nothing more than his name and his final command. Lie low, I repeated, take stock and don't get into any fights. The only portion of my memory banks that seem to have survived intact, other than the basic personality routines and things like general language usage, is an open database for recording fungoid life forms on this planet. I should very much like to fill the rest of it in. Fungoid? Mushrooms. Would you happen to have any I can categorize? You're a hyper-advanced stealth fighter, and that somehow has a machine personality built into it, and you want me to bring you mushrooms? Yes, please, Mbot said. Take stock, as in categorize local life forms. I'm certain that's what he meant. I'm not so sure, I said. It sounded like you were supposed to hide from something. I leaned out the side and looked at his wings. You have large twin destructor emitters on each wing, along with a light lance turret underneath. That's as much firepower as our larger ships. You're a warship. Clearly not. I'm here to categorize fungi. Didn't you listen to my last orders? I am not supposed to get into fights. Then why do you have guns? For shooting large and dangerous beasts who might be threatening my fungus specimens, Mbot said. Obviously. That's stupid. I'm a machine and therefore my conclusions therefore logical while yours are biased by organic irrationality. He made a few lights on his dash blink. That's a clever way of saying you were the stupid one in case you. I understand, I said. Thanks. You're welcome. He sounded utterly sincere, but he wasn't, what, a robotic integration, whatever that was. I wasn't sure how far I could trust his honesty. Still, he was a machine with a memory, albeit damaged, that stretched back hundreds of years. This could be a solution, maybe, to questions we'd always asked. Why did the Krell keep attacking us? What were they really? Our only depictions of them were reconstructions based on the armor they wore, as we'd never been able to take one captive. We'd probably known the answers to these questions, but if so, we'd lost them 80 years ago. Soon after crashing here and presuming themselves safe, and the majority of the officers and scientists and elders from our old fleet had gathered in the underground cavern. They recovered the old electronic archive from the Defiant and had been holding an emergency meeting. That was when the first life buster had been dropped, destroying our archives with them and most anyone with seniority in the fleet. That was when the remnants of our people had broken into clans based on their duties in the fleet. Engine maintenance workers like Grin and her family, hydroponics crew, glorified farmers like Bim's ancestors, foot soldiers like Morning Tides. They learned through difficult trial and error that if they kept to small groups of under 100 people, the Krell sensors couldn't find them hiding in caves. Now, 3 generations later, here we were, slowly fighting our way back onto the surface, but with enormous holes in our memories and history. What if I could bring the ultimate secret to the DDF, the solution for defeating the Krell once and for all? Though it was unlikely Mbot had that answer. After all, if the old human fleets had known how to defeat the Krell, they wouldn't have driven into near extinction. But surely there were some secrets hidden inside this machine's mind. Can you fire your weapons? I asked. I'm commanded to avoid fights. Just answer, I said. Can you fire? No, Mbot said. The weapon systems are locked out of my control. Then why would your pilot order you not to get into any fights? You aren't capable of fighting anyone. Logically, one isn't required to finish a fight in order to start one. I'm allowed minimal basic autonomous movement and could theoretically stumble into a battle or a conflict. This would be disastrous for me on my own, as I require a pilot for the most important functions and I can assist and diagnose, but as I am not alive, I cannot be trusted with destructive systems. So I could fire them, I said. Unfortunately, weapon systems are offline from damage. Great, what else is offline? Other than my memories, boosters, activity ring, cytonic hyperdrive, self-repair function, the light lance, and all mobility functions. Also, my wing appears to be bent. Great, so everything. My communication features and radar are functional, as are cockpit life support and short-range sensors. And that's it? That appears to be it. He was silent for a moment and I can't help noticing that through the aforementioned short-range sensors that you are in possession of a few mushrooms. Might you be willing to place those in my cockpit analyzer for cataloging? I sighed, resting my back in my seat. So what should I do? But soon would be nice. I doubt I can fix this thing on my own. They do look like nice mushrooms. No, I was not going to give this discovery to Ironsides, but if I was going to repair this ship, I at least need help. Not that I require affirmation of any sort, as my emotions are mere simulations, but you are listening to me, right? That is good. I'm listening, I said. I'm just thinking. That is good. I should not like to be maintained by one who lacks brain functions. It was at that moment that I had my third terrible idea in not so many days. I grinned. Maybe there was a way to get some help in repairs. Approximately half an hour later, after curfew, I was hanging upside down by my light line outside Ring's window on the third floor of his apartment complex in Igneous. He was snug inside, sleeping in his bunk. He had his own little closet of a room, which I'd found luxurious. His parents had been deemed exemplary in 6 parental metrics and had been granted housing for multiple children, but ironically, Rig was the only one they'd ever ended up having. I knocked on his window, hair dangling below my head as I hung there. Then I knocked again, then a little louder. Come on, it hadn't been that long since I'd last done this. Finally, the sleepyhead sat up. Light through the window from my light line, outlining his pale face and bleary eyes. He blinked at me and didn't seem the least surprised as he walked over and slid the window open to the side. Hey, he said, it took you long enough to come and try to talk me into coming back, which I'm not going to do. I don't have everything figured out, but I'm sure that my decision to... Oh, shut up about that, I whispered. Grab your jumpsuit. I need to show you something. He raised an eyebrow. This is serious, I said. You're going to flip your boots when you see it. Infuriatingly, he just sat on the windowsill, looking at me as I was standing there upside down, which was not easy, mind you. It's almost midnight, Spin. This will be worth it. You're going to drag me off to some cavern, aren't you? I won't be back until like 2 or 3, if you're lucky. He took a deep breath. He grabbed his jumpsuit. You do realize you're the weirdest friend I've ever had. Oh, come on, let's not pretend you have other friends. Strange, he said, that my parents have never managed to give me a sibling, but I still somehow ended up with a sister who gets me into trouble all the time. I grinned. Meet you down below, I said, then paused. Flip your boots, Rig, trust me. Yeah, give me a minute to sneak past my parents. He pulled the drapes closed, and I let myself down to the street below, where I waited impatiently. Igneous was a strange place during night. The apparatus worked all hours, of course. Day and night were just words here, though we still used the terms. There was a mandatory quiet cycle during which the cavern's loudspeakers didn't play any announcements or speeches, a curfew for those who weren't on last shift. Nobody paid attention as you walked the streets if you kept to your own business. The default assumption in Igneous was that everyone was going about something useful. Rig met me at the street level as promised, and we walked through the cavern, passing the mural of 1,000 birds in flight, each one divided in half by line, the 2 halves slightly offset from each other. The birds soared from a red-orange sun, which you couldn't often see from above. Our caterpins got us past the guards and into the tunnels. As we walked one of the easier paths, Rig filled me in on what he'd been doing the last few weeks. As his parents were happy he'd washed out, everyone knew how dangerous being a pilot was. They're proud, of course. Everyone treats me really strange once they see the pin. Like they listen to what I say and tell me my ideas are good, even if they aren't. And people make way for me like I'm someone important. You are. No, I'm the exact same of important I was before. But I've got dozens of different job offers waiting for me, and I've got 2 months to decide. 2 months, I repeated. Without a job or school, just free time? Yeah. Miss Vermeer keeps trying to push me toward politics. Politics, I said, almost stopping in the tunnel. You. Tell me about it. He sighed and sat down on a nearby rock. But what if she's right? Shouldn't I listen to her? Everyone else thinks politics is the best thing you can do with your life. Maybe I should do what they say. What do you want, though, now that you care about that? I winced and looked away, blushing deeply. I'm sorry, Spin. That wasn't fair. I haven't been fair to you. To, to you, I mean. I chose to study for the pilot's test. You didn't make me. And yes, your dreams kind of consumed my own, but that's mostly because I didn't have any dreams. Not really. I keep thinking, what if it happens again? What if I let myself get excited about a job and discover I'm completely unsuited to it? I feel that flying, so maybe I'll just keep failing. Rig, I said, taking him by the arm. The problem isn't that you're going to be unsuited to what you pick. The problem, what it's always been, that you're simply too scudding great at too many different things. He looked up at me. Do you really believe that, Spin? Sure do. I mean, yeah, you decide flying wasn't for you, but I think if you have a flaw, it's not that you fail too often. It's that you refuse to admit what everyone sees, the fact that you're incredible. You're going to drag me into something again, aren't you? He asked. Something ridiculous. I hesitated. Yeah, probably. This had better not to do something with rats, Spin, he said as we landed. I know you go crazy for them, but I turned up the light on my light line, illuminating the ship, as if in coordination with my reveal. Mbot turned on his dash and running lights. I'd cleared away much of the rubble. Broken, yes, with a bent wing, but distinctly different from anything we had in the DDF. Rig gasped at his jaw dropping practically to the floor. Well, I said, what do you think? In his response, he sat down on a nearby boulder, then still staring at the ship, pulled off his right boot, then flipped it over his shoulder. Well, I noted. I said boots plural, but I'll take it.